Well, hello my friends, it's Shawn Petite and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Look at this bright, happy piece today. So much fun. Here are the supplies that we'll be using. I started today's project on a 12 by 12 MDF board and I'm just giving it a good coat of gesso, making sure to have lots of movement in my brush strokes because it adds lots of texture to your base coat. So I've got some teal out here. This is Lucas paint that I'm using. You could use any type that you have, but I'm using teal and some gesso. And I'm just getting my base coat on. I'm doing this, I usually put papers down, but I've got a lot of papers in store. So I'm just getting a good coat down and I'm mixing my gesso and my teal together. And I'm making sure to move my brush back and forth to get movement and light and interest in the background. It seems very simple, but it does make a big difference for some interest in just a plain painted background. All of the supplies will be listed on the blog, and the link to the blog will be down below in the YouTube description box, and you can see everything there. I'm just making sure to get enough lightness because I know I'm going to have a lot of things going on, and I know I'm going to have a quote and that kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that it was nice and light with all of that movement. And so I just kept adding some gesso. I'm just taking the end of my brush and just scribbling into the background my intention for this piece, where I was in the process and what was happening. And so I just put that down, and that'll add some really fun, interesting peaks of texture that will peek out behind the design. I went back in and softened it up just a tiny bit, but it's still there and you can see it. And I love it, how it shows up. It's so subtle, but those are the subtle things really make a difference in an interesting piece of art. So I'm just adding a little bit more gesso, just kind of soften those lines down. So now I've got a regular piece of copy paper. I haven't gessoed it, it's just plain regular copy paper. And I've got my high flow acrylics out. This is quinacridone magenta. And I wanted to create specific color. I knew what I wanted. I knew the colors that I wanted, and I didn't have any papers that really fit. So I said, well, of course I'm going to create my own. So I brought out my acrylic high flow paints because I wanted a real kind of watercolory effect, and I wanted to be able to add my own interest to make it unique. And so I'm just working on regular copy paper. I put my high flows down and spritzed it with some water and just kind of moved it around the page. And I will do that on all 3 pages. I'll do them somewhat different each time, but basically it's the same thing. I put my paints down, spray it with water, move it around, and then I add alcohol. I'll do a spritz of alcohol to kind of get some watery spots and some different movement on each one. And I'll pick them up, move them around, get some drips, that kind of thing. But I wanted it to be real fun, kind of organic and just natural. And so I'm just adding my color here. I'm wanting that purple. This is the, I don't remember which color purple it is. Again, those supplies will be listed, but I wanted that purple to really show up. It's more of a plum almost. And then this is green gold, and I wanted a little bit lighter green, so I started adding some gesso in with my acrylic high flow. And what a fun experiment that was, because the high flow's moving around and the gesso's kind of staying in place, so it created some really interesting texture. And that's the best part about experimenting and just playing. So on this one I just picked up some of that extra paint and then brought in another sheet of paper, and what that does is it kind of mats everything down, gives it a different look. I'm grabbing just a little bit of Lucas paint in Fern and just trying to kind of even some of that out a little bit and get that kind of light green color that I was looking for, so that I could have some contrast. And that didn't do a whole lot. So I went back to my green gold and decided to add some more to it because I was looking for more pattern within the page itself. And so I went straight to the green gold and added that in. And then I picked it up with the paper, and this was fun. So look at this second page that's coming out here. Oh boy, so many ideas. Anyway, so I spritz some alcohol in there. It just gets the paint moving around, creates some interesting pattern. And so now I'm creating my own pattern. I knew that I wanted some fun pattern on there, and I wanted to do it very subtly. So the colors that I'm using for the pattern are just a lightened version of the green gold, or the color that I was using. So I took my high flow acrylics and I just add a little bit of gesso to them and just kind of mixed them around, and it worked, and it was wonderful. And so I'm just playing. I don't have an agenda. I'm just laying pattern down because I knew I was going to cut these up, and anytime I start to plan where I want things to go, they don't turn out as well. So just play and have fun. I did add back in some of that green gold splatter, just again for contrast and a little bit more interest. And I'm going to continue to do basically the same thing. And I am stenciling with my high flow acrylics. And the great thing about this is that it's messy. If you want a perfect stencil design, this is not for you. But I didn't want a perfect stencil design. I wanted it to kind of be free and messy and be unexpected so that I could get something that I might not necessarily think of as far as things running under the stencils and that kind of thing. But oh man, was this fun. I'm using a smaller brush to stencil with my high flow acrylics, and I just love it. I positively love it. If I were wanting something detailed, I wouldn't do that, but for backgrounds, oh yeah, it works. So I'm using the same color that I used for the background color. Same here with my quinacridone magenta. I'm just adding my color back through my stencil. And it's nice to have that concentrated color instead of the watered down color. And so I went back over each page and just kind of added a few touches of paint just to kind of darken it up, brinchen it up, and then again to add just a little bit more interest to each page. And I'm using that small brush because I can get some really good brush strokes and scratches and different things in each page. I needed one more kind of neutral color for my leaves, and I searched for a vintage paper, and I couldn't find the right thing. So again, I decided to make my own. So this is acrylic ink. This is F&W's acrylic ink in sepia. And I put that down and then sprayed it with some alcohol, and look at this beauty. Oh my gosh, I just fell in love with this paper. It looks like an old leather book cover. I just love how this turned out. So I wanted to add just a little bit. I wanted to push back some of that kind of roughness and again add some interest. So I took some of that acrylic ink and just added some gesso to it, and then just kind of smudged it all over the paper, and then pushing that paper down on top of it really kind of mats it down. It gives it a really unique look. So I've got the dictionary page here, and I am getting my words down, and this works because I wanted something with words for interest, and so I just made my own. So once all the papers were done, I traced my leaves on my papers and then I cut them out. And now I've got a bunch of leaves. So much fun. It's very therapeutic. Back to the base of the piece. Now I've got my spring wreath stencil, and this is my guide for the whole thing. And so I stenciled that out with just some regular carbon black paint. And I knew I wanted to add a little bit more to it, and I was going to just draw some leaves or add some stenciled leaves, but I decided to just take sections of the spring wreath, and what a great idea. This is perfect. This will work for so many projects. It just adds some body to the base of the wreath. So I laid out all my leaves, and now I'm going to put them all down with my matte gel. And I chose matte gel because I want the leaves to be flat. I don't want them to wrinkle up too much, and Liquitex fluid acrylic would probably do that. Now typically I like all the wrinkles, but for this piece I wanted them more flat. So I got everything down and it's dry and all the leaves are in place. And I'm going to start adding some shading and some depth. And typically I would do this with, say, a charcoal pencil or a soft pastel, but I'm in this place where I'm really trying to try new things and do things differently. I think that's always great in every area of our lives, especially art, because we just learn, grow, and find new things that we love or can add to our art practice. So I'm just adding this acrylic ink all the way around on the inside of the wreath, and just adding some shading and just kind of getting an idea of the depth that I might need for this piece. I also know that I'm going to be putting a quote in there, and that I wanted to lighten up that middle part, but I didn't want it to be too stark. So once I got my gesso down, I came back with the acrylic ink, and this is again the sepia, and just kind of stuck my finger in that acrylic ink and kind of ran around the edges of that gesso to just kind of soften it up, to give it some shading, some warmth, so that it wasn't so stark white. So now that I have got my middle part kind of worked out, and you can see how nicely that looks when I get that acrylic ink into that gesso in the middle. Now I'm taking my charcoal pencil, and this is a soft charcoal pencil. I typically work with an extra soft. This is kind of medium, not hard, but medium. And I'm using the back of the pencil. I've got my hand at the back of the pencil so that my lines are really sketchy and scratchy and I don't have a whole lot of control. And I'm just adding my details and what I would call shading. Typically I would go around each one and shade with my charcoal pencil, but I'm doing that defining with those scratchy, sketchy marks. I'm adding lines to the middle of the leaves. Just very, very freely. There's no real defined line. There's just a bunch of sketchy lines all the way around. And I do that a couple of times. I go around each one a couple of times. And then I kind of add my own leaves in the process. I add just a few ones here and there, maybe where I thought, it feels a little blank here, whatever. I'm just kind of adding a few sketchy lines and things like that on the inside. Now I'm going to get my quote ready, and I've used two different font stencils because I wasn't sure what I wanted, and I'm stamping them out or not stamping, stenciling them out onto tissue paper with my archival ink. And this is my favorite way to put down almost anything these days, because if I don't like something, it is not ruined. I can pick up that tissue paper and just redo it. So I don't have any risk. And so I'm glad that I did both fonts, because I really did not like the other one as much as I liked this one. So there's a lot of benefits to stenciling onto tissue paper. I'm adding my last little bits of sketches and you know, just kind of finessing everything right now. And then I'll add some shading around the edges. And that is it, my friends. Stick around for the conversation at the end. It's a good one about what a gift today is. And I hope you enjoyed today's project. And if you did, subscribe and like and share and all those wonderful things. And thank you so much for being here. And I will see you next week. Well, hello, my friends, and happy Sunday to you. Look at this happiness. Oh my goodness. I just love this. This was so much fun. This was just play and just relaxing and just having fun. I just loved it so much. Before I get into this, all the stencils that I used today, which would be the font stencils, the dictionary page stencil, the scribble mark stencil, all of those stencils will be on, and the wreath stencil will be on sale this week. And then let's see what else. Oh yeah. My new workshop is out and ready for you to enjoy and partake. It is called Journal Journey, and we talk about so many things and have so much fun in this workshop. It's about experimenting and play and kind of letting loose and letting go, especially in our journals, because that's our sacred place. We're not creating for anybody else, but we address things like how to break the blank page and how to even start, where you find inspiration, ideas. We do some play and just some kind of free painting and coloring and just kind of getting some things on the page. We complete 4 journal pages from start to finish. And we talk about texture and all different kinds of things. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun to do this workshop, because journaling is one of my favorite things to do, and my journal is my sacred place. This is my, for me kind of journal, and where I experiment, and I share why my journal is as important as my paintbrush. From my journals, all of my art comes, all of my commissions that I do, artwork, original work, all that kind of thing. It comes from my journals and the experimenting and play that I have within my journal. So I hope you take a look at it and see. Right now their early bird pricing is happening, and that's for 2 weeks. I think it's about 2 weeks. That the early bird pricing will be available, and then it goes back to the regular price. So I will have a link to that down below in the YouTube description box, and also down below in the YouTube box is the link to all of the supplies and everything that I used in today's video. Today was fun because I'm really trying to just do things that I don't typically do. And really that experimenting leads to so many things. And that's kind of what the workshop's about. So, all right, so back to this. I don't think I have anything else I need to tell you. Back to this. So this was just, I wanted it to be bright and fun and kind of match the quote. So I originally had a different quote, but I wanted to go with joy, and like there's joy in today, and I just couldn't, it just didn't, that always happens for me. I'll have an idea and I have to sit with it for a while, and it just wasn't right. And then I was like, well, maybe joy is not what I'm supposed to be talking about this week. So I went back to write. I just start writing, you know, how I'm feeling. And that's always where I start my process when I'm creating and what I need. And I said, I just need some joy in today. And I kept coming back to that. And I started writing again, and I was writing, today is such a gift. And I thought, oh, that's it. And it also goes along with the joy, because right now there's just so many things happening all the time, everywhere. And it just can be 100% overwhelming, and people are still working from home. If you're watching, you know, later on when people are watching this, I filmed this during the COVID pandemic, and we're starting to come out of it. But there's some things happening where, you know, we might go back into like staying in place. I mean, there's just so many things. And then with social unrest and writing and things that are happening, it's just, it feels like it's so much. And my husband and I, you know, we're talking about it, and we feel the weight of that. And I just am searching for the joy in anything and everything that I can. And that was like, I just need, okay, so one thing right now in this moment, let me find some joy. And then I move on to the next hour. Okay, one thing right now, just in this moment, let me find some joy. And I just kind of have to do that. And that's just kind of my process with anything, whether it be a pandemic or not. Whatever I happen to be dealing with or struggling with or working or goals or anything like that, I always kind of have to go back to do my inner talk and say, okay, what can I learn from this? What do I need to find in this moment? All those kinds of things. But right now for me, I need some joy. I need just enough to get me to the next day so that I can then find some more joy for that day. And so today, if I can just grab hold of, and maybe you too, maybe you're feeling the same, if I can grab hold of, today is a gift. Today, just today. I don't need to look to tomorrow. I don't look back. I'm looking at right now in the present. Today is a gift. And I can start looking at all of the wonderful things that happened today. I got to talk to my kids on Skype. We laughed in the shop with the girls. I took a deep breath in and a deep breath out, which means I'm alive. There's just so many things in today that I can find joy in. And sometimes we need to remind ourselves of that. When there's so many things, and there could be something completely outside of all of the other stuff that's happening in our nation for you. Maybe you're having your own health issues. Maybe you're having relationship issues. Maybe there's a million things that all of us, and I get your emails, and I pray over them, and I send you emails back, and I know what you're going through. But there is one thing that you could find joy in today. And maybe you could even say, today is a gift because I'm alive, because I can make choices, because I have friends, because I have my kids, because, you know, whatever it might be. Today is a gift. And there's joy in today. And that's what I needed. And as soon as I did it, as soon as I wrote it out, as soon as I said it out loud, I had a little bit more breathing room, and I went on with my day and did my things, and I felt better. And I'll repeat the process until I don't have to. And that's what we have to do with whatever we're trying to do, whatever change we're trying to make. We repeat our inner dialogue that's positive until we don't have to. All right, my loves, that is it for me today. I hope that your Sunday is restful and peaceful, and I hope that you realize that your Sunday is a gift. Today is a gift. You are a gift, and you are worthy of having that joy. All right, my loves, always, always know that you are loved.